My life's journey. My wife and I are now both 50 years old, and we've known each other since our high school days. We tied the knot right after college. It took 6 years before we welcomed our first daughter, DD1, into the world, and another 2 years passed before our second daughter, DD2, arrived. During most of our marriage, my wife has been a stay-at-home mom. We faced some significant challenges when our daughters were young, which I initially attributed to the stresses of raising 2 adventurous kids and my demanding career that often kept me away from the family. However, things took a turn for the better when our youngest reached junior high. The constant battles ceased, and we began to spend more quality time together, both as a family and as a couple. Our intimate life, which had been virtually non-existent, blossomed into something even better than our early days of marriage. Honestly, for the past 7 or 8 years, I couldn't have been happier with the state of our relationship. And the positivity continued to grow. We began traveling, engaging in deep conversations, pursuing shared hobbies, and simply relishing each other's company. Regrettably, approximately a month ago, I was in the process of transferring files, including business documents and family photos, from my wife's old, long-unused computer. As I sifted through the photos, I stumbled upon 2 images that struck me as odd. In one, my wife was seen kissing a man I faintly recognized on the cheek at a party, while the other displayed her posing for a picture with the same individual in front of Rockefeller Plaza. Both pictures dated back to 1999. Although I was reasonably certain I had encountered this man before, I couldn't quite place him. The apparent familiarity between them in the photos troubled me, as it seemed to imply a connection deeper than mere friendship. Consequently, I found myself ruminating over the situation for the next couple of weeks, resorting to online searches like how to determine if your spouse is cheating. Early in my research, I discovered the Siteforum community and delved into the wealth of information and shared experiences on their forum. I refrained from showing the photos to my wife. Our relationship had appeared rock solid at this stage, and I didn't want to come across as a paranoid or overly suspicious person. Moreover, I couldn't fathom the idea that she would ever be unfaithful. Nevertheless, the uncertainty began to gnaw at me. In response, I made the decision to download a data recovery tool and embark on a search for any additional images on that old hard drive. What I discovered was a complete and utter nightmare. There were hundreds of photos, letters, and saved emails. It turned out she had been involved in a long-term affair with the man from those initial 2 pictures I stumbled upon. The new photos ranged from posed pictures of them together in New York to some of the most explicit and intimate images I had ever seen. She had engaged in sexual acts and experiences with him that we had never even discussed. To make matters worse, many of these explicit images were unmistakably taken in our own bedroom. The letters and emails contained even more distressing content. They were filled with declarations of "I love you," detailed plans for leaving both me and his betrayed spouse, and the cruel and disrespectful comments she had made about me. She critiqued my appearance, belittled me for not uncovering their affair, and criticized my performance in bed. The letters even went so far as to compare his physical attributes as being larger, better, and harder than mine. The list of disparaging remarks seemed never-ending, and she even voiced complaints about my job, the very job that I had worked tirelessly at to support our family and which allowed her to be a stay-at-home parent for our children. Examining those photos and reading through all of those pages was an excruciating ordeal, but I forced myself to go through every single one. They are now etched into my memory. The photos span approximately 8 years based on the file dates, while the emails and letters covered a somewhat shorter period, with nothing documented after 2008. Over the past week, I've been immersing myself in this difficult situation. I haven't broached the subject with her yet, but I'm fairly certain she can sense that something is amiss. At this point, I find it challenging to even be in the same room as her. Her evident concern is evident, as she frequently inquires about my well-being and if there's anything I need. So, the pressing question on my mind is, what's the next step? Should I confront her with all this compelling evidence, consult with a lawyer first, or consider leaving? The status of her current involvement in the affair remains unclear to me. I'm feeling lost, perpetually dizzy, and constantly nauseated at this juncture, as if I can't discern which way is up. I'm grappling with the idea of whether I can ever overcome this, but I can't envision my life and future without her. And then there's the concern about my daughters. I don't want to cause them any pain by disrupting the family unit. It all feels surreal because just a month ago I would have confidently declared that I had the most extraordinary relationship and a profoundly loving wife on the planet. I'm profoundly grateful to all of you who've taken the time to provide such prompt responses. I'll address a few questions before heading to bed. I'm not familiar with the other man. He seems vaguely familiar, but I haven't seen him recently. I plan to go through our high school and college yearbooks to see if he might be an old classmate. My daughters are in their 20s and currently attending college. They're both strong and independent, and my primary concern is to prevent any issues between my wife and me from negatively affecting their studies. Thanks to your kind responses, I've decided to consult with a lawyer tomorrow. I've already conducted research on local family lawyers who specialize in divorce and have received several recommendations. I deeply appreciate everyone's thoughts and suggestions. It's incredibly challenging to think clearly right now, so I'm grateful for any help. I'll try to check in again tomorrow, especially after my consultation with the lawyer. Once again, thank you to all who have responded. The support I've received is truly remarkable. I have a meeting with a lawyer in a few hours, and I'm unsure of what to expect. Update on the situation. Unfortunately, it seems that both of them used disposable email accounts for their communication. His was an AOL account with a string of numbers in the address, while hers was a Hotmail account. I even attempted to send an email to his account, but received a notification that it couldn't be delivered. What struck me was how infrequently they referred to each other by name in their messages. She mentioned him by name only a couple of times, calling him Michael. As many have recommended, I'm going to set up an appointment with my physician to undergo testing. Sleep has been a major challenge for me. The images keep intruding on my thoughts, as though my mind has strung them together into an incessant movie reel. This is especially pronounced when I'm lying in bed trying to drift off to sleep. My appetite has been virtually non-existent in recent days. The suggestion of trying protein shakes sounds like a good idea, and I'll give that a shot. I'm making a conscious effort to stay hydrated, as I've seen many people suggest that. I'm certain that a divorce would have a significant financial impact. Since my wife has been a stay-at-home mom, SAHM, and hasn't worked since our first daughter's birth, and although she has a degree, she's never really used it, I wasn't aware that adultery could potentially affect alimony. I apologize if my responses appear fragmented. I wanted to address some of your questions before heading to the lawyer's office. I've taken the rest of the week off to try and regain some clarity. Thank you once more for all your assistance. Quick update. I had an extensive discussion with the family attorney. In my state, if I opt for divorce, it requires 1 year of separation before divorce proceedings can begin. The lawyer recommended consulting with my CPA and financial planner to compile a list of assets and determine which ones would be subject to property division. It seems that my situation is further complicated by trust funds in both mine and my daughter's names, which will keep me occupied for some time. I truly appreciate the valuable advice. I wouldn't have thought to go through our phone and credit card records without your guidance. Additionally, I followed the advice of several posters and picked up 3 voice-activated recorders, VARs, on my way back from the lawyer's office. Regarding a good location for a VAR, someone mentioned her car. Are there any other suggestions for suitable places? I might utilize my insomnia to go through her iPad and phone tonight. She no longer uses a traditional computer since she got her first iPad. I'll also explore this Dr. Phone solution. I must admit, I'm struggling with the whole covert operation aspect of this situation. I've always strived to be honest and transparent throughout our marriage. While I acknowledge that I'm not perfect, I don't engage in dishonesty. Consequently, concealing information and engaging in secretive actions behind her back is emotionally painful in its own right. I'm perplexed at how she managed to do it so effectively and for such an extended period. It's as if our entire marriage was built on deception, and I'm left feeling like I don't truly know who my wife is. Once again, thank you to everyone for your valuable insights. It's reassuring to have your collective experience to rely on. I'm truly sorry to hear that you're going through this difficult situation. Do you recall her visiting New York City during that period? Additionally, although it's a sensitive topic, given the circumstances, do you think the timing might warrant DNA testing of your children? I hope it doesn't come to that. She did visit New York City several times with a group of girlfriends when my kids were younger. However, she stopped spending time with them many years ago, as I always considered them a negative influence. Leaving that group certainly appeared to have a positive impact on our relationship. We can both sense that something is amiss. I informed her that I'm feeling terrible and that I'll be sleeping in the guest room. There's no way I can continue sleeping in our bed with those distressing images constantly replaying in my mind. I have a doctor's appointment scheduled for next week. Last night, while she was asleep, I decided to go through her phone and iPad. We both know each other's passwords, so it wasn't challenging to access them. To my relief, I didn't come across anything incriminating, no strange emails, contacts, or text messages. I also checked all her apps, considering the possibility of fake apps, but they all seemed legitimate. She hasn't been particularly active on social media. She has Facebook and Instagram apps, mainly for keeping up with pictures our daughters post. I examined both apps, and she hasn't posted anything on either of them in over a year. While I'm not a regular user of Facebook or Instagram, I conducted a bit of exploration with the assistance of Google and couldn't find any unfamiliar friends or messages. I even randomly checked some of her friends to see if there were any connections to someone named Michael. The only one I found was a 10-year-old grandchild, clearly not a potential affair partner. I meticulously reviewed all the phone bills I've preserved, spanning approximately 5 years. The vast majority of calls were to me, our daughters, and 2 local friends, with consistent call frequency. Every now and then, I spotted unfamiliar numbers, but none of them seemed to reoccur. In fact, I took the initiative to call a couple of those numbers, and they turned out to be disconnected. I discreetly placed the voice-activated recorders, VARs, last night, and I'll be examining them tomorrow night, once she falls asleep. I suppose one small advantage of not sleeping is having this opportunity. Next on my list are the examination of old credit card statements. Regarding therapy or counseling, I haven't come across any evidence of payments or insurance filings in my research. I've been married for quite a number of years, and I've started considering the possibility of her seeking professional help. Once again, I'd like to express my gratitude for your ongoing support. It's been a much-needed source of positivity during an otherwise distressing period. It's almost as if you can read minds. I did come across some old explanation of benefits, EOBs, from our health insurance provider, which indicated counseling sessions that took place 6 and 7 years ago. I've never attended any counseling myself, so it must have been either my wife or our daughters. I can't distinctly recall anyone mentioning therapy in the past, but I'm beginning to doubt my sleep-deprived memory at this point. As I was digging through old credit card receipts, I dozed off, and woke up with a blanket draped over me. I suppose she must have found me asleep. Nevertheless, I managed to go as far back as 2012 without spotting any red flags. There were no unaccounted-for hotel charges during that time, and no strange purchases that I could discern. I'm planning to check the voice-activated recorders, VARs, tonight, although I'm starting to feel like I might reach a breaking point if I'm not careful. Taking a brief break to walk on the treadmill and watch Stranger Things might provide some physical activity and help me sleep better. I can never express enough gratitude for all of your responses. Please understand that I've been heavily reliant on your advice and support throughout this challenging week. I checked the voice-activated recorders, VARs, last night. The one placed in her car only recorded her singing along with the stereo. The one inside the house captured some brief conversations with me and a phone call to one of our daughters. I'm beginning to think that there might not be any more information to uncover without launching extensive investigations. The ongoing secrecy and sneaking around are taking a severe toll on my mental well-being. This afternoon, I've decided to confront her. Many of you have provided excellent advice on how to approach this conversation. I'll simply show her the NYC kiss photo and tell her that I'm aware of Michael. To address a few questions, my state does have an alienation of affection law, but it's apparently challenging to enforce. According to my lawyer, adultery can indeed impact alimony payments. The lawyer is confident that the evidence I currently possess would be sufficient to strengthen my settlement. I had conversations with my CPA and financial planner on the phone yesterday, and both of them concurred with the lawyer's assessment that the trust funds would not be subject to division as part of our assets. Before I have the conversation with her, I'm planning to take a walk around our property. I've been neglecting things over the past few weeks, and I want to check on the condition of our grounds and our animals. Hopefully, this will help clear my mind and put me in a better mental state. Once again, I want to express my gratitude to everyone. I'll attempt to provide an update later. I informed her that we needed to have a serious conversation. We sat down at the kitchen table, and I presented her with the kiss photo. I said, "I know about Michael, but I want to hear everything from you, the unvarnished truth." Her initial reaction was one of surprise upon seeing the photo. However, she soon slumped into her seat and expressed deep remorse. A few moments later, she went to our bedroom and returned with an envelope, explaining that it contained the writings she had composed during therapy and that she might need them to help recall things. They first crossed paths in January 1999 at our church's Mother's Morning Out program. OM's daughter was the same age as DD2, and they happened to be in the same class. OM was a stay-at-home dad. According to her, they instantly clicked, and their connection deepened significantly over the next 6 months. They conversed about their family lives, expressed dissatisfaction with their partners, and exchanged anecdotes about their children. Their first intimate encounter occurred during the summer. They arranged for childcare 3 days a week and utilized the ensuing 3 hours of free time for their intimate encounters. These encounters took place in various settings, including inside their cars, our homes, and even the church basement. During that winter, her friends at the time, who were aware of and supportive of the affair, schemed to organize a girls' weekend in New York City as a pretext for a romantic getaway for her and OM. It was during this trip that the first 2 photos were taken. They repeated this scenario with a few more out-of-town excursions, always disguising them as girls' weekends. When second daughter was in kindergarten, their daily intimate encounters gave them the chance to explore a wide positions and fetishes. They were open to exploring virtually every possibility, and she deserves credit for her unfiltered honesty when sharing the details of their adventures, which included activities such as BDSM, costumes, role play, and anal play. Among others, she continued to mention her awareness that hearing it was causing me distress. Evidently, my expression conveyed physical discomfort. She persistently offered to halt, but I found it difficult to articulate my thoughts. Instead, I non-verbally indicated for her to proceed. Eventually, they came to the realization that they were deeply in love. They painted negative images of their respective spouses to each other, casting us as the villains in their stories. According to her, it reached a point where they were indulging in fantasies of escaping together. In February 2008, a tragic motor vehicle accident took the lives of OBS and his daughter. Their vehicle skidded off an icy road and tumbled down an embankment into a river, abruptly putting an end to the affair. She was left utterly devastated by this turn of events. As a side note, I do recall her experiencing significant emotional distress during this time. She had confided in me that one of her college friends had passed away, and she was struggling to cope with the loss. Subsequently, she sought therapy to help her navigate the difficult period. Evidently, it took her a year of therapy to come to terms with the aftermath of her affair. It was during this time that she gradually realized the devastating impact it had on her family over those 9 years, leading to a profound self-loathing. In an effort to turn her life around, she distanced herself from her old, toxic circle of friends. Over the course of the next 2.5 years, she attended therapy sessions weekly. Her therapist apparently guided her through exercises that involved contemplating how she would feel if she were to discover I had engaged in similar actions, prompting her to visualize me actually partaking in those actions. She was also encouraged to document every detail of what transpired during the affair, which was likely contained in the envelope you mentioned. It appears that her therapist recommended a course of action that involved not confessing to me, but rather focusing on repairing our marriage and becoming the wife and mother she should have been during the years she took away from our family. The therapist's advice seemed to revolve around her accepting the responsibility and working on her personal growth. She concluded by acknowledging that she understood there was no way she could ever fully atone for her actions. However, she emphasized that she had now dedicated her life to our family and me. Following her heartfelt confession, we sat in silence, simply gazing at each other for a considerable amount of time. When I eventually found my voice, I inquired why she had made the choices she did. Her response was candid. She admitted that her actions stemmed from selfish desires. She craved the attention and excitement that the affair provided. The forbidden nature of it all made it far more exhilarating than our ordinary everyday life, allowing her to escape into a fantasy world. She revealed that her family had always placed immense pressure on her to be perfect and follow a straight and narrow path, with no room for rebellion. Somehow the affair represented an opportunity for her to break free from those constraints. The hurtful content she had written. Until that point, she had maintained her composure fairly well, with a few tears but no outright crying. However, when she read the emails, it all became too much to bear. She broke down into uncontrollable sobs, the kind of heartbreaking wailing you might read about in stories. I sat there stunned into silence, I suppose. After some time, I led her into our family room and gently placed her on the couch. She remained largely non-responsive for over an hour. When she finally regained her composure, she confessed that it was physically painful for her to imagine me reading those words. She understood the agony she had caused and expressed the urge to scream. She also realized why I had seemed so unwell in the past week. Then she managed a faint smile and said, "At least you don't have cancer." Evidently, that had been her underlying worry throughout the week. She handed me an envelope containing all the writings from her therapy sessions, offering to let me read them at my own pace. Then she inquired whether I wanted her to leave. I explained that I needed some time apart to process everything. She appeared saddened but agreed to pack her things and visit her sister, who was aware of the affair. Her sister graciously welcomed her for as long as necessary, being a widowed parent with grown children. I assisted her in packing the car, and off she went. Being alone in our house felt strangely serene. Thank you for being there to listen. I'm going to take a brief respite from all of this and indulge in some mindless football watching. It seems like a welcome distraction. Part 2. Greetings to all. I've returned tonight and have been truly touched by the incredible care and concern you've shown. I extend my heartfelt gratitude. With the approaching holiday, circumstances have necessitated that I share some essential information with my daughters. I provided them with a simplified version of the situation, excluding explicit details, and informed them that our usual Thanksgiving family gathering has regrettably been called off. Their reactions were a mix of surprise and frustration. My second daughter vaguely recollects the daughter of old memories from their elementary school days, but has limited recollection of OM himself. My estranged spouse, referred to as wayward wife, reached out today through multiple calls and texts. I initially chose to disregard the first few attempts, but eventually responded, requesting a period of no contact. I find myself in dire need of some time to contemplate the direction I want to take in my life. I concur with those who advise seeking individual counseling. Being an engineer, my natural inclination is to approach situations in a methodical or systematic manner, which works effectively in my professional realm, where I address issues with efficiency. However, I've come to recognize that this approach may not always be as successful in dealing with matters of the heart. Engaging with an objective professional to exchange ideas appears to be a prudent step. Several individuals suggested the need to verify the deaths of OM and his family. This afternoon, I conducted a relatively straightforward online search and found that the names and dates align perfectly with her account. I continue to grapple with the challenge of reconciling the image of my incredible wife, with whom I've spent the past 7 or 8 years, and the teenage girl I once dated, portrayed as a duplicitous, conniving, and morally compromised individual in those pictures and emails. Only time will reveal whether I can come to terms with the fact that she encompasses both facets and whether I can still choose to remain by her side. As mentioned in a previous post, my state mandates a 1-year separation period before filing for divorce. On Monday, I plan to inform my lawyer that today marks the beginning of this separation period. If I decide to proceed down this path, it seems likely that he will need to draft formal separation documents, including agreements related to financial support and the division of property. I'm going to make an attempt to get some sleep now. Once more, I want to express my gratitude to all of you for your support. Hello, everyone. I returned from church and was pleasantly surprised by the numerous responses. I haven't managed to read through all of them yet, but I thought I would address a few of the more commonly asked questions. She wasn't at our church today, although it's possible she attended the earlier services. Several individuals inquired about her whereabouts, but I attempted to provide vague responses. I'm uncertain if it's anyone else's concern at this particular moment. How did I manage not to become suspicious during the affair? I'd like to think it's because she was exceptionally adept at concealing it. But, to be honest, for a substantial part of that period, I was working an incredible 100 hours a week, managing my businesses. Things were flourishing, but we were undergoing rapid expansion, and I bore the weight of it all. I was essentially on call around the clock, and frequently traveling between multiple sites. You could say that someone could have parked an elephant in our backyard, and I might not have noticed it. Regarding the matter of selling the house, discarding the bed, and renovating the bedroom, my house is situated on a piece of family-owned land that I have no intention of parting with, so I'm staying put. However, I'll never sleep in that bedroom or bed again. I intend to get in touch with a decorating firm next week to transform the current master bedroom into a guest or spare room. One of the other bedrooms will become the new master, I suppose. In the near future, I am considering having my estranged spouse, referred to as WW, relocate her belongings from the house. I believe that this separation will be crucial for my mental well-being over the next several months, at the very least. It's remarkable how much more peaceful my mind has become since her departure. In fact, I slept for a solid 10 hours last night, a feat I haven't achieved since my teenage years. My appetite still hasn't fully returned, but I suspect protein bars will keep me going. Many have inquired whether I believe she would still be with OM had he not passed away. I can't say for certain, and I would guess she doesn't have a definitive answer either. Life took unexpected turns around us. Frankly, I don't particularly care about that aspect at this point. What holds significance is the 9 years of infidelity and deception that actually transpired. I suspect that alone might be too much for me to overcome. I'm eagerly anticipating my return to the office tomorrow, where I can engage with the kind of challenges I'm more proficient at resolving. Strangely, I've maintained a sense of calmness since I confronted her on Friday, though it feels like it was longer ago. I refrained from using profanity or name-calling during our conversation. In fact, for much of her explanation, I found it difficult to speak at all. While I was starting to feel anger build up late last week, a significant portion of that growing anger appears to have dissipated. I also spoke with my daughters, DDs, again. Both of them have chosen not to communicate with my wayward wife, WW. I asked them not to forsake her. After all, she is their mother, and the only one they'll ever have. Despite that, both of them have decided to come and visit me for Thanksgiving. I'm immensely grateful for their support. The holiday would have been an exceptionally lonely one with just me and the animals. Had a wonderful afternoon today. Spent some quality time with an older neighbor tinkering on his collection of antique cars. We may not engage in much conversation, but there's a profound comfort in simply sharing the garage with someone, both of us turning wrenches. Addressing the question about my sister-in-law's SIL awareness of the affair, my wayward wife, WW, mentioned that she confided in SIL several years after OM's passing. However, she has not divulged the situation to her parents. WW has taken steps to disassociate herself from the detrimental friend group that facilitated the affair, confirming that she no longer maintains contact with those individuals. Someone brought up a crucial point indirectly. Historically, I've been responsible for managing our finances. If you had asked me last month, I would have confidently stated that my wife wouldn't even know where I kept our financial records. Now I'm uncertain about what to believe. While my business accounts, most of our family accounts, and all our properties are solely in my name and beyond manipulation. We do share joint checking and money market accounts for daily expenses, as well as 2 credit card accounts. Should I consider taking any action with these shared accounts? Perhaps limit her access in some way? I assume there are legal constraints to consider. My primary goal is to safeguard against financial instability, reckless spending as a form of retail therapy, or even any potential for revenge, though I believe the latter is unlikely. I plan to consult with a lawyer and financial planner on Monday to seek their recommendations. I assume that the formal separation process will address these concerns. I understand that I haven't been able to respond to all the thoughtful questions you've posed. Realistically, it's a challenging task to address each one. I want everyone to know that I'm reading your comments and benefiting from the collective wisdom and experiences shared here. I've also been perusing other distressing stories on this platform, and it's been enlightening to realize, as many of you have pointed out, that my situation isn't unique. It's reassuring to witness betrayed spouses who, regardless of choosing divorce or reconciliation, find happiness in the years that follow. A brief reflection before I turn in for the night. I never noticed how prevalent infidelity themes are in popular media, in movies, TV shows, news and novels. I attempted to watch some television tonight, and it felt like every show revolved around some form of extramarital activity. This began to make me feel anxious and irate, so I eventually gave up on it. I may have to stick to sports programming for a while. I've commenced the search for an apartment or townhouse for my wayward wife to relocate to. There are several reasonable options in a nearby town with a local college. A number of individuals have suggested that she should seek employment, and after some consideration, I tend to agree. While nothing is set in stone, it's possible she may need to support herself in the future. However, I'm unsure about how to broach this topic with her. Perhaps it could be incorporated into the separation agreement? I suppose that's another question I'll need to discuss with the lawyer tomorrow. I'm currently at work, so this will be brief. I've never been one to be deeply in touch with my emotions. I tend to be reserved and quite uncomfortable when it comes to opening up about my feelings. I suspect that my instinct to fix things is a default mode for my problem-solving subconscious, a way to compartmentalize the terrible emotions of last week. I'm planning to ask for recommendations on therapists, although I don't envy the one I choose. I'm aware that I might not be the easiest patient to work with. It's important to note that I haven't made a decision to pursue divorce. Due to the extended separation period required by my state before divorce, I want to initiate the process early. From what I understand, being separated doesn't commit me to any specific choice. In my profession, preparing for multiple outcomes without restricting options is the norm. It might seem overly analytical, but that's how my mind operates. On a different note, I don't quite understand why people feel the need to emphasize how hopeless AO's situation is if he even harbors the slightest inclination to reconcile or to castigate his wife, or paint his situation in the bleakest of terms regarding the affair. I suppose these individuals might not recall the case of Swat. Well, he did eventually choose to divorce his wife after trying reconciliation. However, she posted on the forum for wayward individuals, and her remorse and dedication seemed unquestionable. Even after their divorce, they remained close, and I wouldn't be surprised if they found a way to rebuild their lives in harmony. Both of them managed to survive infidelity. There's another member here who is a regular and highly esteemed contributor. Despite his wife's hurtful actions, he appears to be slowly mending his marriage. It's undoubtedly a challenging journey, but I recall him sharing that he doesn't regret the effort he's invested. And then there's a member whose username pretty much sums it up. He's an incredibly compassionate individual who plays a crucial role as a moderator and contributor on this platform. His wife hosts the fun and games section and is a guiding light in the Wayward Forum, arguably the bravest of all the forums here on SI. That's a couple I'd certainly like to meet at a get-together. I won't even bring up the founding couple of this site, a couple who successfully reconciled. And I won't suggest that the skeptics should explore the Wayward Forum, where they can find courageous members who once engaged in immoral actions, believed they could never be forgiven, and thought they couldn't change. These very members are now guiding new posters who might be even more emotionally troubled than those in JFO. Please, if you visit the Wayward Forum, just read and refrain from posting. I can easily name about 10 more individuals with situations that were incredibly challenging. Some of them managed to reconcile, while others chose to divorce. Yet all of them endured the pain of infidelity. Whether you decide to pursue reconciliation or opt for divorce is entirely up to you. Both options are open to you, and at this stage, it might be too early to fully commit to one path or the other. Take your time to discover what's best for you. People have divorced in circumstances less challenging than what you are going through, and others have successfully reconciled despite facing what might seem like more daunting obstacles. What we think of your situation isn't relevant. What matters is what you want, what you're willing to do, and your plan to achieve your goals. I want to express my gratitude to everyone. I'm sorry if my story has caused distress or discord on the JFO forum. I genuinely appreciate each contributor taking the time to read about my situation and share their thoughts. Today turned out to be a remarkably productive day at the office. Maybe it's a form of escapism, but it felt comforting to address challenges within my field of expertise. I compiled a short list of potential counselors based on recommendations from friends and online reviews, and I'll start making calls tomorrow. My lawyer requested and obtained, with my consent, an executive summary of my personal and business finances from my CPA. Hopefully this will enable him to make some financial projections for the event of a potential divorce. Some of the comments from the lawyer were concerning. I had assumed that my businesses would be secure, but now I'm uncertain. It would be disheartening to lose everything I've diligently built over the past 2 decades, in addition to losing my wife and marriage. That would undoubtedly be the most unfortunate turn of events. This whole process is just incredibly disheartening. It feels outrageously unfair in every aspect. Life was splendid just a month ago, and now it's as if I've been hit by an overwhelming wave of difficulties. I find solace in doing or thinking about something else, which perhaps explains why I keep jumping from one new task to the next. Apologies for the rambling. I need to grab my protein bar before bedtime. Yum. Good night, everyone. I had my doctor's appointment and briefed him on my situation. He mentioned that the chances of finding anything treatable this far out from the affair are slim. Nevertheless, he conducted a comprehensive panel of STD screening tests and performed a thorough physical, mentioning that I'm in good shape for a 50-year-old. On the downside, it looks like I'm due for a colonoscopy, given the family history of colon cancer. Bummer. The doctor also provided a counselor recommendation and offered to make a referral, which I graciously accepted, adding the name to my list. I managed to reach out to most of the therapists on my shortlist, though a few were already closed for the holiday weekend. In the end, I decided to schedule an appointment with the one recommended by my physician. I spent some time at work and then headed home to tidy up in preparation for the girls' arrival tomorrow. I'm eagerly looking forward to their visit. We're planning to fry a turkey, so wish me luck. My wayward wife sent me an email inquiring about my well-being and whether there's anything more she can do for me beyond maintaining no contact. She expressed her understanding of my need for solitude and is prepared to wait as long as necessary. Interestingly, she mentioned that she's going to resume therapy in the meantime. She appears to be particularly concerned about my eating habits and offered to store some meals in the fridge while I'm away from the house. I haven't responded yet, but a few members have brought up the potential awkwardness of the girls visiting me without seeing her. I'm undecided about whether I should reach out to her to make plans or allow my daughters to work things out on their own. While I appreciated the offer to bring food, I couldn't help but think of the caution about Greeks bearing gifts. I came across the ICR thread for those who found out years later. It's disheartening to see how many people have experienced similar situations. My heart goes out to everyone on this site. I've started to experience a strange sense of numbness. I suspect I'm unconsciously avoiding thoughts about the affair and my wayward wife during the day. That's one of the reasons I'm making an effort to write in this thread every day. It compels me to confront my feelings and not simply hide from them. It's therapeutic, for sure. I hope I can maintain my composure while the girls are visiting. Hello, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. My daughters arrived safely. I've been quite busy helping them get settled into their old rooms and strolling around our property. Their immediate desire is always to visit the animals whenever they return home. We haven't broached the topic of separation yet. I believe everyone is exhausted and willing to postpone that discussion until tomorrow. A few individuals inquired about the progress of my lawyer's review of our finances. I checked with him today, and he's still in the process of untangling some complexities. Interestingly, he and my CPA are working together on this. I don't anticipate them finishing this task until after the holiday. Per the regulations in my state, my wayward wife and I have been considered separated since she left the house. Strictly speaking, no legal documentation is necessary. However, I informed the lawyer of my intention to move forward with a separation agreement and property settlement papers. Addressing and formalizing these matters early carries two potential advantages. As many people have pointed out, my wayward wife may be more cooperative at this stage. More importantly, settling these issues will enable me to concentrate on the relationship and decide where I want it to go. If an out-of-court settlement is reached, it will be legally binding and won't need to be revisited if we opt for divorce in the future. The engineer in me insists on solving one problem before moving on to the next. Oh, I believe Weston asked about my location on the East Coast. I'm situated in the Mid-Atlantic region, nestled in the Appalachian foothills. Time for bed. The turkey is defrosting, and the fire extinguishers are at the ready. I hope all my American friends have a wonderful Thanksgiving tomorrow. Just checking in. I'm having a delightful holiday with my daughters. The turkey frying was a success. I enjoyed my first real meal in a week yesterday. My second daughter and I rose early and went hunting today, a long-standing tradition. My second daughter has always been more of a daddy's girl after all. Although we didn't catch anything, we had plenty of time to talk. Interestingly, is considerably more furious about my wayward wife's affair than my first daughter. In fact, second daughter still refuses to speak with her mother. My first daughter paid a visit to wayward wife and sister-in-law this morning while we were out hunting. She didn't share much about her visit, so I'm uncertain about what transpired during their conversation. The girls have plans to return and spend the week between Christmas and New Year's with me, which is a relief. I was dreading the idea of being alone during that time period. I truly cherish their company. We wrapped up the evening by watching A Christmas Story and Elf together. My first daughter is heading back home tomorrow, but my second daughter will be staying until Sunday. I'm hoping to receive some feedback from the lawyer early next week. However, I'll be traveling for business during the latter half of the week, so I won't be able to meet with him after Tuesday. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Preserving family traditions is undeniably important, and I'm impressed that you've managed to keep them alive with your daughters, even during these challenging times. It's heartening to hear that you're enjoying yourself. You raise a valid point. If you attend church on Sunday and your wayward wife is absent again, people may begin to wonder. I bring this up so that you can be ready to respond in a manner that suits you. Take care. That's a good question. I'm considering sending her an email to inquire about which service she plans to attend so that I can choose the other one. Attending different services may help avoid too many questions if one of us is missing. My second daughter left for school this afternoon, and it does feel a bit lonely now that they're both gone. However, the winter break is just a month away, and they'll be visiting again. Weston, I did send an email to my wayward wife, and we've agreed to attend different church services for the time being. She was cooperative about this arrangement. My first daughter is quite upset with my wayward wife. Although she's a bit less emotional than my second daughter, she displays more maturity. It seems she wanted more information than I was willing to provide and reached out to my wayward wife directly. The details of their conversation are between them, and we didn't discuss it. Nevertheless, in her own way, my first daughter has been just as supportive as my second daughter. While I hold the minister in the highest regard, I'm not inclined to discuss my wayward wife's affair with him. I'm uncertain if he could maintain complete objectivity given his familiarity with both of us. I have an appointment with a therapist recommended by my physician, scheduled for 1 week from this coming Monday. Unfortunately, I couldn't arrange it for this week due to a